Thank you, Reynaldo.
So I'm going to give you a different perspective or augment the perspective of others because I can talk from my experience having multiple identities. You know, I'm a Latino technical guy in an industry that has maybe 1 to 2% Latino representation. I work in implementing energy systems of which the Department of Energy funds 1% of that, the entire budget goes, 1% goes to Latino companies. So there's massive underrepresentation of people of color within the tech, the entire infrastructure community. So that's the perspective I'm going to bring to the table. And I'm also using AI to generate all of the artwork in here. So if you have any problems with that, it was ChatGPT that did it. But I told ChatGPT, draw me some pictures of how connected humans are to visual content and documenting their knowledge and sharing their knowledge. And if you think of it throughout history, we started out finding artifacts on cave walls of stories, people telling stories. And not only that, documenting cycles of the moon and the sun. They were communicating knowledge. They were using it as cheat sheets, so to speak, you know, to and pass it on generation to generation. So there's a very strong history of us documenting and sharing knowledge through symbolism, through clay tablets, through scrolls, and then we evolved to the mass knowledge stage of humanity where the printing press emerged. And then we started mass producing knowledge in the form of books. Then word processing, like Riza said, transformed the way people process data. We went from telegrams, sending Word documents, little chat messages on Telegram over wire, you know, before the internet, to now doing the same thing over chat and emojis. So for over time, we've always been communicating in the same way. Short little text, imaging, pictures, paintings, drawings, and also oral stories. Oral stories now with on the radio, on TV, you name it. So, and then songs and music. When you think about it, songs and music tell stories and communicate culture and everything else. So it's all intertwined. So when we start thinking about AI, we have to take every one of those forms of communication and then make sure that we're incorporating that into the solution. And what the internet has done is the internet has really connected the intelligence of every human on Earth. Every connected human on Earth is connected now. And that connectedness has been harvested by AI. They're building big, large language models. But what they've really done is created a knowledge garden. You know, in the old days, when the internet first started, there was a company called AOL. They created what's called a walled garden. It was an internet that they wanted you to see. And if you live inside of Facebook, it's the internet they want you to see. If you live inside Google, it's the internet they want you to see. So now we're in a new realm where the truth is going to come out through your interactions with these language models, and it's going to tell you what the truth is. You're not going to have direct access to the truth. You're not going to have access to attributable truth. Like, you know, Google started out on the algorithm of ranked choice, you know, where it told you, here's what the best thing, just like a patent citation. This is the most authoritative thing. We lost that. Now it's who pays me the most. You get the ad guy at the top pays for the truth. So we're losing our connectedness to rigorous truth validation and everything else as we're building these models. And it's doing things, there's multiple knowledge gardens. There's Microsoft Knowledge Garden that they created using their gaming chat and everything else. They've been training this for years, 20 years of training. Tesla has a knowledge garden on autonomous vehicles. They put a supercomputer in the back of the car, collecting tons of data. They're the most advanced knowledge garden of that. China, I worked in many projects in China. When you cross the border, you're in their internet. And there's only one gateway through Hong Kong, and they can close it off. I went to China one time, and it was a time when the Dalai Lama was getting a lot of media press. And so every time you clicked on a video on YouTube, it put on a Rick Astley song over and over and over. So it drove everybody crazy because that's the way they blocked it, is they put up this thing. So we're already living in this artificial knowledge gardens that are being generated for us, and it's a centralized, curated, filtered truth. From my perspective, I've done a lot of chats with these systems, and they're very culturally biased. You know, if you ask it, like for example, some of the pictures I asked to generate, I said, show me people of color, a man and a woman, because I want to show inclusiveness. It showed me a naked woman, and it showed me a clothed man. So it just shows you the bias, and no matter how I ask the question, it generated the same response. So those biases need to be filtered out, or we need to distill knowledge out of these systems into our own space that we can then manipulate. And we're at the verge now of losing the connection between the brains generating the knowledge and machines generating knowledge. So now the machines are going to be generating knowledge, and I've been told already that some of these data center hyperscale complexes are so complex that some humans don't even know how it works. The machine is beyond human comprehension already. So we're going to get to the point where the language machines are going to be beyond human comprehension, and then only the machine is going to tell you things that it's generating, and you're not going to know what it's doing. So that's the danger here, is that we need to bring it back down and put it into the hands of humans again, so we're in control of the knowledge and our own knowledge. So we have to optimize for how to work with what I call big AI now. We need to be able to extract knowledge out of it, but also validate it. So we need a way of validating that is the truth. Where did that knowledge come from? You're generating it from some data set. What's the original data set of that? And we talk about, Riza's talked about the nutrition facts. We need to know where the source of that knowledge came from. Next slide. And the impacts are already being felt through the internet and the digital divide. So a friend of mine is an economist, and he told me this is the reality. You know, there's going to be bigger and bigger digital divide. It's going to be who knows how to use this AI tool to augment their skills and income, and then those that don't are going to get swept aside. So this is the problem. But from my perspective, if we're going to be developing a whole personalized AI, we need to develop it from childhood, because when you think about it, the new generations are 100% digital audit trail of everything they do. You know, your baby is born at the hospital. Put it out there on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok now. TikTok now is telling stories. And not only telling stories, they're telling stories in your bedroom, they're telling stories in your bathroom, in your living room. So the entire context of your life from birth to death is now digital. And it's being mined, strip mined for knowledge. So that's the problem. So we need to be able to also make sure that the learning and the way that we design these systems is social, because humans are social. We need to also be able to learn social. We need to be able to share knowledge, and also as we're distilling knowledge from ChatGPT and other sources, because it does require a distillation process. We've all dealt with the hallucinations and the disinformation that ChatGPT does. In fact, sometimes I get angry with it and tell it, stop doing that. Give me what I asked. I said, I liked what you gave me in the previous version. Go back to that. And sometimes I have to cut and paste and say, this is what I want. You know, because it keeps altering every time you make a request, it keeps altering things. And sometimes you like what it gave you, and you just want to do incremental updates. So we need to be able to have a tool that we can distill that, put it into our own thing, and then edit and add our own knowledge onto that model. And then we need to be able to share this distilled, curated knowledge, and we need to design it so that we can organize it into small case-based reasoning chunks. And the reason for that is if we can distill it into small case-based reasoning chunks, we can distribute it into very tiny computers and audio analog processors, which are 1,000th the energy of digital processors. We can start scaling down the infrastructure. Get off that insanity of the monster GPU clouds and monster transmissions of data over fiber, and start scaling down and build tiny case-based rules that we can then retrieve quickly. Because ultimately, what you want is a augmented memory. You want to be able to recall things quickly, and I think we have to start architecting back down to those constraints. And then I'm working with Berkeley, and I told Berkeley, I want to take the visual tools that you have for teaching children how to program, and let's design a visual tool for how to build AI systems. Let's take that same Lego building block model, make it simple all the way from when you're a child, 4-year-old. You should be programming your own intelligence and your own systems, and then start thinking in terms of how can we create declarative tools, because declarative tools are easier to learn than other type of tools. We need to start decomplexifying all of this technology. We're over complicating things when we need to go back to the old. Sometimes you have to go back to the old tech and old ways to do it right. And so that's what I'm talking about. And we need to be able to handle you need to be able to chat and talk with this thing. And we need to incorporate zero trust security, where you envelop everything in your own, only you know how to get to that, period. In your own methods or whatever. And if we're successful, then we can start cultivating what I call personal AI superpowers, because then we can start adapting the system to the learning needs of each individual. Some people learn better through oral stories. I had a student that was classified by the school system as a special ed student in one of my technical classes. Couldn't read. So I said, okay, let's do an experiment. Here's the technical book, use the audio book. Problem solved. She started learning, started taking notes. She started, being able to repeat it. She's driving in the car, it's telling her all these buzzwords or whatever. So we cracked the nut. It's because you have to adapt to the learning styles of each individual. So if some people learn by hearing, put earphones on them. Some of them read, good. Some of them want to learn other ways, but the ultimate goal is to adapt the learning to their method, and then give them the superpowers so they can master any topic. And not only master it, but kill it. Like I have one student, I created a program to teach fiber optic technician installers. And the student, the pilot just finished. The student graduated making $76 an hour to start. This is a game changer. They can now live in Silicon Valley, and drive a Lexus, or not a Lexus, a Tesla or whatever. So that's the game-changing thing. If you can start learning how to adapt the learning and start incorporating AI. For example, I'm designing cybersecurity course. I'm going to add Linux Copilot that hides all the complex commands, so you can just ask it, how do I do this? How do I do that? And it'll go out and do it. That's the way we should be doing things. So, and then to be able to transfer skills on demand quicker, direct learning using a sprint-based learning methods. For example, the way I design curriculums is I teach them how to master one topic at a time. Master that topic, and then repeat until you master it, then you move on in a very short period of time. You minimize the learning friction, you spread skilled workers throughout communities, because the other thing about decentralizing infrastructure to support all this is we create local jobs instead of them being in these big hyperscale complexes. That's the way we build an inclusive economy, and that's the way we start building a learning system that can crank out skilled people, not just for the high-end jobs, but the middle-skilled jobs. Half of our economy are middle-skilled jobs. A robot and AI is not going to install that fiber cable in your house. It's going to require some skilled guy to come in and do that work, or to do a micro trench and lay cable and stuff. Robots are going to be guiding to do that, but someone has to operate those things. So So that's, and then there's a lot of limitless use cases. You can change lifestyle habits. A lot of mental health issues have to do with learning and the job pressures and all. You can start eliminating those mental health issues. You can generate product-specific procedures. For example, I had an Ethiopian student that was having difficult time learning how to install Windows systems with, English talking. So I said, okay, let's try ChatGPT giving you the procedure on how to do that. Ask it through your language. He said, no, there's 40 dialects of Ethiopian language. That thing's not going to understand it. I said, do it. So he put it in. It generated a precise procedure in English on how to do the task. I can't remember what the task, it doesn't matter. It gave him precise instructions for that. So boom, there goes the learning curve between English, the friction between languages. So it can really transform the way you learn product-specific procedures, recipes, recall tasks. You can generate your own way of learning. You can assemble, the goal is to get me a job in this career, create me a customized path based on my learning abilities and my gaps, show me how to get there. That's when we start changing, transforming, and including everyone into this economy, rather than just arming the highly skilled with these things. So that's, and what's also lacking is this community-centric AI education. How to incorporate AI not be afraid of it in education, how to create security that's really secure, how to create energy efficiency. Because I'm passionate about creating sustainable tech, not just keep on this path of destruction of continually consuming resources. I'm an efficiency expert. I started out as a assembler programmer, writing little code, little tiny programs, to manipulate bare metal to generate stuff. That's my mindset. I don't like throwing code and throwing servers and spinning up cloud servers,
Waste.
Based on demand. Yes, waste. I hate waste. I'm a zero waste guy. So I think we can do it using analog processors, slimming down, create domain-specific language and code, so we can solve problems in a more intelligent way, and figure out how we can preserve indigenous knowledge before big ag and these other sectors harvest it. Because the last domain that hasn't been harvested is how to deal with the soil. There are tribes all over the world that have indigenous knowledge about how to do peaches, how to not use pesticides. That's thousands of years of knowledge of how to do that. Big ag is going after that knowledge. And so we need to make sure that we can preserve, because otherwise we're not going to have any more small farms. No, there aren't going to be anything. The only thing that's going to be left is lights out, robotic, tasteless fruit, and that's not what we want. That's not the world that I want to live in or have my children live in. So we have to preserve that. And then my good friend who's an economist gave me some of the talking points on economy, because from my economic background is basically just, I want to create jobs and so on. But his background is more about equity. How do we really use this technology to transform local economies and so on. And so that's my viewpoint.